And we're live.
Yay!
I think we're live. It says we're live, so we're going to act like we're live. Welcome to this episode of To Infinity War and Beyond, where we cover the Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron. I'm Joe.
I'm Ashley.
And if this is your first time joining us, welcome. There's tons of these to check out. Not really, but there are about 8 more hours of this to look at if you really want to.
Yeah, we're not really good at brevity. Brevity is not our thing.
In the chat, we have Night Shame and Amy Awesome. Welcome,
Nice,
guys.
welcome.
Thank you. We're doing well. Thank you for asking. I'm sure more people will filter in as the notification goes out to folk. And I'll send out a tweet here in a few minutes once we get started, which we'll do in a moment. So this is one of our ones that nuzzles up to the release of a new one, much like we did for Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
So with this one, we have, of course, Infinity War coming out on Thursday for us.
Thursday.
I think Friday is the technical release date, but of course they always do early release stuff.
I know some people already had to teach like Wednesday, so like now I'm super jealous.
Yeah,
I want to go see it on Wednesday. I want to go see it now.
Yeah, right now. Like, just
Correct.
close laptop.
Bye,
just
guys.
leave. Route.
We'll tell you later.
Typical has also joined us. Welcome, good sir. He's been retweeting us a lot, I believe. Thank you very much.
Nice to see some newer faces,
In
so
the
to
chat?
speak. Yes.
Yeah, so you want to go ahead and get started?
We might as well, and then of course if other people show up, we'll be sure to acknowledge all of that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the Avengers
Also,
and Age of Ultron.
Also typical. Thank you for the subscribe, my friend.
All right, so like we always do, we're going to talk a little bit about the general overview of the movies. We always start out with gripes. We like to get that and the negativity out of the way. Likes, MCU connections, Stan Lee cameos, and we always talk about the post-credit scenes and such. So again, if you've never been here before, that's a basic overview. We also like to talk about other context as well, like money and such, how things are performing, and just give our general opinions and such. All right, so The Avengers was released on May 4th, Star Wars Day in 2012, directed by Joss Whedon. This was the final movie in the first phase, the culmination of all of the characters' origin stories. Of course, like many other Marvel movies, it placed #1 at the box office its opening weekend. Out of all of the Phase 1 movies, it has the biggest budget at $220 million. And this one is the first billion-dollar box office worldwide with $1.5 billion as its take-home. So again, first thing we're going to do is talk about the gripes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So there's really not like too many gripes for these, to be honest. I really disliked this flashback to Captain America's story because literally in the phase order, this literally came out earlier and not that long had been from first Avenger to Avengers. So it just really feels like, wow, look at our worldwide box office numbers. That was pretty low. We should probably show a little montage of what happened so people know about Captain America's story, which feels really silly because the Hulk, which also didn't do well, they did not do that with, probably because they recast the actor, but still, it just seems a little unfair that they couldn't give us a better lead into the Captain's story because, of course, they're having to get everybody together. That makes sense. They're showing a little bit of the characters' personalities. They don't really have to do so much with Stark because everybody really knows Tony because he had 2 movies in Phase 1. But this
made an appearance in Hulk.
But this just felt really cheap to me. That's why I dislike it. It's obviously it's well put together. It shows that he's having some struggles from his time in the war and he hasn't really been awake that long. But it's just, again, it really felt like a cheap move filmmaking wise. What about you?
I don't know. By that same token, the end of the first Avenger scene, the end credit scene was literally plucked from Avengers. I mean, it's the same back and forth, and it's frustrating. lazy isn't necessarily the right word for me, but it is close. Like, I'm in the same category. It's a bother, it's a problem, it's an issue I have. It feels very simplistic because I don't think they did that with Thor, did they?
No, because Thor shows up later.
Yeah, and considering Loki is
the primary antagonist. Yeah.
Welcome, Cal. Thank you for joining us.
All right. The other thing that I really dislike is Pepper Potts, and we've talked about this before, but it always bothers me when she's in things.
Yeah.
I do not like this actress portraying this character. If they recast the character, I don't know if I would have so many gripes with it.
I know a lot of people like her in this role, and that's fine if you do, but it's one of those, it's very difficult to separate the artist from the art with this one.
Yes, and we don't need to get into all of Gwyneth Paltrow's things, but I just do not. Again, I don't think she's a bad actress. I think she captures the essence of the character really well. She just frustrates me every time she's on screen.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. She just annoys me dramatically.
Yes. All right, and then another thing that this was
more of my issue.
Your thing. So if you'll take the lead.
So for those that know the comics, Maria Hill is kind of a big deal in the comics, and in this movie, and to an extent in Age of Ultron, I believe they kind of sideline her. Like, she's awesome, she's skilled when they show her, but she's literally there to be Fury's second in command. Like, she doesn't really have much of a personality outside of like, yes, boss, gotcha, boss, and that's frustrating because Maria Hill is awesome in the comics. Lover or hater, she is incredibly capable and talented.
And I really like the actress that they got to portray her. Kobe Smulders.
Yeah, that's what I was about to.
From How I Met Your Mother.
Yep.
Robin Sparkles. If Kimber's here, she'll get that.
She is not in the chat yet. I hope they join us soon.
All right, and then this moment with Fury, like he launches an RPG at the jet. That's the rogue jet, and then that was a decoy, and there's another jet. So then he throws down the RPG and pulls out a handgun. Like, how are you going to stop a jet with a handgun? I don't understand why this was filmed this way. It makes no logical sense. You're going to throw down the weapon that could actually...
It probably didn't have ammo anymore. But at the same time, why are you shooting at it? I get the why are you shooting at it with a pistol?
Yeah, like that's just...
It's a pistol.
Like, okay, my pistol's going to stop the gun. It's just
Fury, you're better than this.
Exactly. Fury should know better, but I'm just like, what? What is going on with that? Yeah, but well, it probably was out of ammo because RPGs are usually...
They're considered fire and forget.
Yes.
You shoot and you're done.
Maybe there wasn't another RPG launcher around.
Probably not. He came out of the helicarrier with it, so he probably grabbed it on his way out. Yeah. And if he took the time to run in and get another one...
Yeah, he didn't think to get two.
Would you?
I don't know. He always says you got to keep both eyes open or whatever, so...
He has his other eye on you.
Yeah. All right, and then Agent Coulson's death is here basically because it had a lot of impact at first, but then but then they bring him back
for
in
Agents
of Shield, so then it was like, no one's really dead, and it makes it hard because when other characters die in the universe, of course, in comic books, people come back all the time, but then it really just kind of takes the stakes away. That like, oh, they're not really dead. And of course, Loki, the same thing. Is he ever really dead? No, he's never dead.
And Coulson was that kind of character where he's at the level where you feel like, yeah, if they kill him off, he could actually stay dead. It's not like when they kill off Superman or Wolverine in comics, and you're like, yeah, we may not see them for a year, but they'll be back.
Mm-hmm. But Coulson's a regular dude, so...
Welcome, Janine. Thank you for joining us. Cal's also pushing us in the chat, and I appreciate that as always, good sir.
Nice.
But yeah, it was frustrating. Now, that being said, Coulson went out like a boss.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's what that does. That was a pretty cool scene. But yeah, just only frustrating, again, because of the broader context of this universe.
Yep.
All right, before we move on to our likes, why don't we check back in with the chat?
Once I get it over here properly. So, just some people popping in saying hi. Typical had to bow out. We appreciate you popping in regardless if you watch this later. But yeah, no one new that I haven't already mentioned joining in Cal and Janine since we've started. But thank you for joining us. And yeah, that's about all I got right now.
All right.
Not a lot of discussion yet, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah. All right, so there's like 1 million likes.
There are.
And they're in order.
And of course, Loki.
The one time they're actually in order. So yeah, Loki, and he looks so horrible when he shows up out of the Tesseract.
He does. He's got the dark circles under his eyes. He looks like he hasn't showered in weeks.
He needs a lot of like a makeover, like, help with his dark circles.
Yep.
Maybe, wash your hair.
Yep.
But yeah, I love Loki. And I think it was smart to choose Loki as a villain because you have this big team up. And then, yes, the other is the one that's behind
kind of Loki.
the behind the scenes guy. But I think it was really smart to use someone like, well, we already know Loki. So then there's less time that they have to do for like the character development. And they can work on focusing, like, we need to get all these disparate characters to work as a team.
Yep.
Versus, we've got all of these people plus this. And then it's just chaos. And of course, Loki, all about chaos.
Oh, yeah.
And then I love the
Stellan Skarsgård.
Yes, they included him. So I like how they tried to get some of the side characters from the different stories. And of course, Pepper is along with that for Stark's story. But I just really love Stellan Skarsgård.
Janine brings up that Loki was funny, and that brings me up to a moment like whenever Thor first shows up and they're having a discussion on the bluff.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Look, you're gonna listen to me," and then Iron Man bum rushes Loki, and Loki's just like, "I'm listening."
I also love when it's like, "Are you afraid of a little thunder? I just don't like what comes after."
Welcome, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us.
So yeah, this was great, and then just showing how the spear, or the Loki's spear,
the staff,
works to transform people's hearts to work for him. And of course, it picks like the best two people in Hawkeye and Selvig.
Dude, Hawkeye is the first one, is like the best
because he knows
move.
Everything.
Yeah,
like,
and he's observant. Cal is saying Loki set the standard for comic villains, and that is true because for a long time, probably until about Phase 3, we were kind of in the, man, why can't Marvel get more villains like Loki?
Yep. This is one of my absolute favorite moments from the movie where Black Widow, you think that she's in this horrible situation, she's being interrogated, and then there's a phone call and it's Coulson, and she's like, "Don't take me out now. This idiot is giving me everything."
And not give her everything.
So a beautiful moment of reverse interrogation, which again sets up for a moment that's going to come later in the movie, and then the action sequence that follows with her busting out of the chair and just decimating this whole Russian criminal organization is just the best. I wish that we had a Black Widow movie already. We don't.
We should have had one.
But we should have had one a long time ago. And then just the fact that she's like in this cocktail dress and
she's still
and grabs her shoes
on
later
the way out.
On the way out.
Yep.
Just the best. What do you think of it?
I thought the choreography was fantastic. I love the looks, like her facial gestures alone, because she really plays off the fear really well. Like she's pretending to be afraid of everything.
You think I'm pretty? It's great.
And then whenever she's like, "This idiot's giving me everything I want," and he's like, "I'm not giving her everything," and the look she gives him is like, "Really?
Yeah, you
really?
are." It's pretty great.
Yep.
All right, let's see what we got next.
The first time Hulk and Banner and Natasha meet.
Yeah, they are meeting, and theirs really cool because the element that they didn't bring over from the Hulk movie was his heart monitor. But when things get really tense in the scene, you do hear like a heartbeat in the background. So It's kind of like a little reference to that.
Especially whenever she's like got the gun pointed at him and everything.
And then it's like, "Oh, you said you were alone. You really weren't." And he's like testing her to test her mettle to see if she can handle things. And I really love Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner. I thought it was a very good casting change. I know a lot of people do like Edward Norton, but I think this is better.
Yep. Welcome, Billy. Thank you for joining us. Cal saying he's not really up for like a Black Widow thing. He loves ScarJo, but and I can get that. I think the window of like major excitement, like I would still love a Black Widow movie, but I think we needed this like
a few years ago.
Yeah, a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think it would have been better if they had done it then. Anywho.
Yeah, like a Black Widow Hawkeye team up movie.
Yeah, Budapest.
Yeah,
the Budapest movie.
Exactly.
That would have been great.
I don't know, but sometimes when you do those reference movies and you get like Rogue One, and
yeah,
so
I know,
we got to be careful. We don't really want Budapest, probably. We need what's before.
But yeah, if I didn't say it already, welcome, Billy. Thank you for joining us, good sir.
All right, and then like Stark Tower, like he's getting that all set up. You know, the monument to his narcissism.
I love it. It looks like me.
And then he gives Pepper 12% credit. He's like, I'm going to pay for that later.
An argument can be made for 15.
Yeah, it's like, so that's good. The little back and forth is pretty good.
They have good chemistry.
I just don't like her.
Yeah, they have good chemistry. Don't like her. Still sad about the lack of Betty explanation. Who's such a big part of the Incredible Hulk. I agree. Billy Ruffalo, I like a lot. Also, his Hulk actually looks like him. Yeah, yes. And especially in Ragnarok, because they did a lot of the like the mocap stuff that they did for like Colossus and Smaug and all sorts of other stuff. I think a lot of, especially the further along they get, because the technology is better, is what you see. And
then I wanted to highlight this scene to contrast the one from earlier in the Gripes, where they show us all of Captain America's
stuff.
PSTD flashback.
Yeah.
I felt like they were going to use footage, that this was a smarter choice, because it's like all at once, and you can kind of see the little, like, here's the little Easter eggs, not Easter eggs per se, but here's all the moments from the movie, and then you don't have to do little montages like that.
Pepper didn't add any spice for you, Ashley?
No.
Billy with the puns.
She did not.
Yeah, that scene is great. Now, as much as the beginning of Cap's scene in this movie was frustrating because it was literally plucked from the end credits of the other movie, and it was all that junk, the whole like bet you $10 I still can't surprise you, that subtle call forward later was really nice.
And was this also the moment where they talk about how, or I think he mentioned something previously where like they're from somewhere else when he's talking to him?
That's in the boxing room scene, or the boxing ring scene.
They're from somewhere else.
He's not from around here.
Yeah, he's not from around here, but Cap's not going to really understand what that means unless they're from a different country.
Yeah.
Because he grew up before, and he was put into ice before Roswell, so little green men.
Billy wants to know what the weird chandelier thing for in Ultron. Interesting.
And they're like a dog or some kind of weirdness going on outside. I don't know if they can hear. I really love this moment.
Yeah.
Where the old man stands up to Loki in Germany and kind of calling back to World War II. And then Cap makes a similar statement about the last time I was here and there was a man doing what you're doing. We disagreed.
We had a disagreement.
Yeah.
I do like that too, where where Loki's like, you'll always bow to someone, et cetera, isn't this your nature? And this dude says this is not to men like you.
Mm-hmm.
And Loki's like, there are no men like me. And his response, there are always men like you.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude.
Well, this guy's got to be old enough to remember what it was like. Maybe he was really young during that time.
Dude's got real courage. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because they see what he can do. And it's not like they've seen something like this before. This is like the world's possible first major like exposure to magic.
Mm-hmm. And when Tony shows up and overrides the PA system just so he can play a song. And I think this is probably one of the last times that AC/DC is used in the universe, but I don't remember exactly.
No.
We watch these out of order.
I think Stark listens to him a little bit in either one of the two Iron Mans we've had so far.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying that chronologically, I don't think they had any AC/DC in Iron Man 3, if I remember correctly.
No, but they had it in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, but this is after Iron Man 2.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were saying. This was the first one. I'm sorry.
The last
My
one.
brain.
Last one.
What brain?
But I just love that moment because Tony would be the guy. And this is actually kind of like something from Guardians where, like, oh, maybe that's why Peter and Tony might get along later when they realize they love music.
I think they're going to have so much friction because they're the same.
Yeah.
Kimber's joined us. Welcome.
They're not foils for each other.
Welcome as well, Kimber.
But yeah, just the whole, I'm going to play my music. He has to have his entrance music.
Okay. Kimber Janine said hashtag reindeer games earlier, and I forgot what that was, and I just remembered that Stark's nickname for Loki.
Yeah, with his horns. Yep, reindeer games.
Okay.
There's a lot of little jokes and references.
There's one joke that gets pulled like at the polar opposite end of the MCU that we'll talk about in a minute.
All right.
Oh yeah,
this is the one where he tells Black Widow that there's only one God,
and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress
like that when she says that Thor and Loki are of legend. They're basically gods.
Yeah,
and the Captain just kind of. This is the one that gets made fun of all the time, where it's like he's met two gods, still believes in one.
Yep.
Obviously, he hadn't really met both of them yet, so.
Welcome, Tom, as well. Thank you for joining us.
So I just like that moment.
It
kind of shows his old-fashionedness, but he's a good kind of old-fashioned, not super bad from the time period.
He's a perfect human being, Steve Rogers.
Exactly, as Lindsay Ellis talked about.
There is a moment or a meme that floated around about him met two gods, still believes in one. Tony Stark met two gods, still an atheist. And then Bruce Banner met two gods, beat the crap out of one of them.
Well, I mean, he hit Thor.
Beat the crap out of both, actually.
Yeah, because he hits Thor. Yep. Yeah. And then I just love this whole, like, the Shakespeare in the Park moment.
Yeah.
This is
Doth thou mother knowest thou weareth her drapes?
And then Thor, because he hasn't really had a lot of exposure to Midgard yet, he has that elevated Shakespearean diction. And I just love that version of Thor where he talks in such an odd way, but it also makes a lot of sense, too. It's not hard to understand.
Yeah.
But... I just love it where they're like, "What? What are you saying?"
Billy asked or said the costume I oddly didn't hate worked for the movie. I like that they point that out at one point. That Coulson, when they're heading to the helicarrier for the first time, Coulson even says, "Oh, I did some updates to your costume, but it still has that feel."
Yeah, and it's kind of it looks like his classic 40s.
But it's all it's sleeker and newer, better material, and all sorts of stuff. And
I don't think this. A lot of people say this is his worst costume.
Rogers makes the point of commenting that, like, don't you think the Stars and Stripes are a bit old-fashioned? And Coulson not inaccurately says, with everything that's about to happen, I think we could use a little old-fashioned right now. And it's true, because it's the inspirational look of Captain America. So, and I like that his suit changes slightly, ever so slightly, each time. He kind of loses a little veneer for the world.
Yeah, it could definitely be a stylistic choice, mimicking his feelings, definitely.
Tom says team up rules, you got to fight first. Very true.
Of course.
That's like comic rules. And it's not even just team up rules. Like when two superheroes meet, there's a 50-50 chance they're going to fight before they even talk to each other. Billy says old guard in this picture right here. And Janine says, love that he gets all giddy meeting Cap. And yes, Coulson, because it's the first time Coulson's lost his composure.
He says so many embarrassing things.
It's the first time he's lost his composure.
I watched you sleeping. I mean, I was there.
I was there when you were being... Yeah.
Like, maybe we should stop talking. And then Stark, meeting Banner officially for the first time, compliments him on his science, and then
also is a huge fan about how you turn into a giant green rage monster.
And it's so mean because, like, obviously Bruce feels very bad about.
But I don't think Tony's trying to be mean. He's literally like normalizing. I think is what he's trying to do. Is like, hey, it happens. I get it.
Yeah, and I think Bruce is trying to take everything in stride, but it's just so annoying because Tony pokes at him like at one point.
So mad right now though.
And it's like, what are you doing? Why are you poking him? Are you trying to kill us all? Like, what? I'm just testing him. Tony would get in trouble in school a lot, I'm sure.
Tom wants Coulson in Infinity War. We're at least getting him in Captain Marvel, so that's good.
Ooh.
And we're getting him in. We're getting Ronan in Captain Marvel as well.
And so it's like a sequence of two things. Thor doesn't understand what monkeys are.
He also doesn't understand the nickname that Tony calls him, nice swing, point break, no hard feelings, which comes up in Thor Ragnarok, which is his code name for the Quinjet login.
So yeah,
but yeah,
he does
monkey reference.
Monkeys? And it's like, I got that reference.
The meme that or the picture that launched 1,000 memes.
And then right before this, Tony does that hard eye roll, like, oh God, really?
Yep.
But yes, I got that reference. And then Thor mentions things that nobody understands about, like, creatures on his world, and it's
Bill
just
Snipes.
Yeah, it's just great.
That man is playing Galaga. Billy brought it up. We thought we wouldn't know, but we caught him.
And then really the movie is like they are playing Galaga because giant aliens are coming from the sky and they have to defend it from the ground.
At least in the beginning, because Tony's also like blowing them up as they're coming down.
Yeah. Yeah, so it had a meaning. Even it wasn't just a joke. It's a through line. That's how you do it. And then this is a callback to the earlier scene where she did the reverse interrogation on the Mafia. And so Loki thinks he has the upper hand. And he is like, oh, is this love? Love is for children.
Yeah.
That's good. This is great. And then he thinks that he made her cry. And she's like, pretend crying. Yep. And he's like, oh, thank you.
You're a monster. You brought the monster. And she's like, there it is.
Thank you. Thank you for cooperation. He's like, what? So that's pretty good that she's so good that she could outsmart the trickster god.
Yep. It's mostly probably because he underestimated her because she's human.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Cal loves Loki's afterimage / hologram effect. Very true. And Tom's bringing up that he wants Banner to embrace the Hulk. Also very true. He says it multiple times. He like goads him into it all the time. And then is confident he's going to show up later, even before he does.
It seems to run on some sort of electricity when he's trying to help Tony. It's like, Tony, are you sure you want this guy's help?
Hey, can you tell me what the couplings look like? It seems to run on some sort of electricity. It's like the one guy, the
worst person to ask for help in this situation. Yes.
That being said, Cap's the only one that could have gotten there.
Yes, of course, but he's only been awake for like a few weeks, probably.
Maybe a few months. But not enough to understand how a helicarrier runs.
Exactly. So
how the power couplings work.
Good luck with that. I just think it's precious to show his lack of skill. Talented in other ways, not mechanically inclined.
Billy, since when did you become an expert on thermonuclear astrophysics? Last night. Did nobody do the homework?
And then this is kind of like a great moment, but also like a little bit of a gripe. Like Hulk is like destroying all of these things in the helicarrier. Are these
He's making Hulk-sized hallways?
Are these not essential systems?
Yeah.
Or something?
Do they not matter?
But it's a really cool sequence because it kind of, especially when Black Widow's running away from him, it kind of has a horror movie quality for a moment. But then she keeps turning around. It's like, don't look, just go.
You're gonna slow down.
Exactly.
Watch where you're going.
That's how people die in horror movies. They looked. And then this great fight between
Hawkeye and
Black Widow, and then when she cold clocks them, and then that's the secret to getting them back is to knock them out.
Knock them the H out.
And then after Coulson dies, and then Fury gives his big speech about like trying
avenging and blah, blah, blah.
All of that, and that was really cool. And then this is really the moment where everybody was united together, whereas before they were kind of working as a team, but it was very dysfunctional.
Well, it's one of those situations where in the moment Loki's attack, or not Loki necessarily, but Hawkeye's attack on the helicarrier united them temporarily. And the after effects was this to try and fix it, because they all knew Coulson. He was the one thing they all really knew.
Yeah, he's the common thread among all of them.
I mean, Stark was talking about flying him out to Oregon so he could hang out with that cellist that he was dating for a little while. Love the moment where he looks at Black Widow before he transforms. Yeah, I get that. And Billy has a gripe with Coulson, apparently. We'll talk about those in a minute.
Sure. And then when Bruce Banner awakens on Earth and this guy finds him, we pointed this out because this man is in a lot of really awesome stuff, but particularly Twin Peaks.
Yep.
And I just love this actor, Harry Dean Stanton.
Yep.
And so it's like, oh, I forgot he was in this, and he's recently passed away. So
sometime last year, I believe, like right after the show ended.
Yeah, so just wanted to throw his little cameo out
also
there.
An alien.
Exactly. Yeah, that's because he asks, "Are you an alien?" Well, then, sir, you have something wrong with you.
Billy says, as we were talking about earlier, that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. ruins the whole reason the Avengers got together. Yeah, it's the only gripe we have with Coulson is it deflates Coulson's sacrifice. But yeah.
And then we learn that Fury made up the fact that Coulson had his little cards on him. They were in his locker. Maria Hill brings this up, and he's like, they needed the push.
And he's not wrong. Mm-hmm. Fury's an interesting character because you never know if he's telling you the truth, but you kind of know you can trust him.
At the same time, they have a lot of reason to distrust him because they were making the weapons of mass destruction because of people like Thor.
Yep.
And
even at least Fury even says this is like, it's not you we're afraid of, it's everyone else out there.
Yeah, not everybody's going to be a benevolent being.
Yep.
And then
this whole back and forth is great.
Yeah, Tony with Loki, and then when he tries to I will steal your heart. Tink.
Well,
Tink.
Well, I don't. Well, performance issues. Oh, Tony,
yeah,
always making it
weird.
Yeah,
I have this thing. It's you can't take me over because I have an artificial heart.
Welcome, Kim. Thank you for popping in. She says Avengers is a great crossover movie, but a lousy team up movie. Discuss. We'll see. We'll see how we feel about that.
All right, I love this moment where Cap gives the orders to the NYPD, and they're like, "Why should we listen to you?" And then takes down 3 or 4 Chitauri soldiers, and then the officer's like, "All right, we need to do this, 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 and this," that Cap had already said.
Yep.
So the instant credibility, actions speaking louder than words, kind of a situation.
Yep. This was also one of those moments. This movie, for as good or whatever you feel about it, is definitely a collection of fantastic moments. Mm-hmm. And this whole I'm always angry, and then as he does the turn, he transforms.
He's growing into the Hulk. Yeah,
the shirt rips, and then just punches the crap out of that Leviathan. The scene before is great too. Whenever it starts, okay, I'm bringing the party to you, or tell him to suit up because I'm bringing the party to you. And when it rounds the corner with him flying in front of it, Widow's just like, I don't see how that's a party. That doesn't look like a fun party.
It did not. And then this is the iconic shot of all of them, the 360 circle shot that you see in every promotion ever.
It's been reused so much. And it's one of those things where, again, collection of fantastic scenes. And this is a really good establisher.
Yeah, especially with the score in the background, which is an excellent score.
Adam Silvestri. Or Alan Silvestri.
And then, when Thor punches Thor gets punched by Hulk.
They point out, people in the chat have pointed out, Cap points with 2 fingers all the time, which is more polite. It's how people that work at Disney apparently have to point when they point things. I was always taught that when I worked at GameStop, use either 2 to 3 fingers when pointing, or gesture with your hand. And they're saying it's totally within Cap's personality to do that, to be as polite as possible. And it's true. He's the idealized good guy kind of thing.
Definitely. Poor Loki.
Yep.
After he gets thrown around like a rag doll.
Which, again, comes back in Ragnarok.
Puny god.
That's how it feels!
And then Tony, when he comes back from the other side of space.
Yep.
And he's seen some things. And then the one, did anybody kiss me? It's why? What, Tony, what?
Because it's Tony. He's always got to make it weird.
Yes.
You guys want shawarma?
Yeah,
we got to do one more thing before we do.
Nobody,
but then shawarma after, right?
Nobody kissed you, Tony. Nobody wants to. Okay, maybe people want to.
People do.
Yeah, and then one more thing, and they go back after Loki, another iconic shot of all of the characters, and Loki's like,
it's all the same to you.
I'd like that drink now.
Yeah. So, that was our likes and gripes, and there were quite a few of especially likes. Yeah. All in all, feeling good so far?
Yeah, this is definitely one where I thought, man, I'm going to love this movie. I loved it back in the day when I first watched it, and then rewatching it, and this movie's all right.
Yeah. It was... It did not age as well as I remember. Because we have been, for the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've been like, can we just watch Avengers?
Yeah, can we just watch Avengers?
Can we just watch it?
And I was like, no, we got to wait.
And yeah, it is still good. We're not saying it's bad by any stretch of the imagination. But it definitely did not age as well as we remembered it. Because we used to watch this a lot more when we were, closer to when this came out. When it was on Netflix, we would watch it once every other week or so. And it was still fantastic. We enjoyed it. We loved it. But rewatching it now, it's kind of just it's still good. It's just, it doesn't have that shiny coat that we remember.
Yeah, there's been so many other good movies in the MCU that this kind of just you can see more of the flaws and the them coming together as a team and such.
I think this movie is a stronger last third.
Yeah.
Definitely. Once they're all teamed up and fighting off the invasion and everything else, it's definitely much better.
And I think that's what most people remember about the movie as well are those moments, and then kind of the leading up to it. They probably remember the stuff on the helicarrier, and then the battle with the Chitauri, but all of the slower moments in between, kind of take those out of your mind.
They're still fine. It's just it's I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Or you can't have action all backed up to each other. That doesn't make a good movie. So, pacing.
Kimber still wishes Jensen Ackles with Hawkeye. I get that. I like Jeremy Renner. I do also recognize this is really all I've seen Jeremy Renner do. That apparently there's some drama movie I think he and Elizabeth Olsen were in.
Wind River?
Yeah, that was like really well regarded.
I heard that was good, and that Tag movie looks really cute.
Tag does look fun.
But
that's more about the ensemble. What else? Billy says it's his favorite MCU film, but he's a man of simple taste. He got some problems, but yeah, it's good. It's solid, and I think that's what we need in these kinds of movies. It works well. All right, so let's see. Renner looks like Grumpy Cat, and he was in Hurt Locker, right? I don't know.
I think he was
probably.
All right, so this is really the movie of the MCU connections. All of the Phase 1 was leading to this. So then the things that I tried to pick are the ones that are leading into the Phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
So this moment where he tricks Thor into going into the prison, are you ever going to not fall for that? I kind of saw that as like a little reference to things that happen in Thor Ragnarok where he uses this trick a lot. It's probably not an intentional reference, but I think it's kind of one of those you can backfill it.
It's like it feels like when they were writing Ragnarok, they took this into account. Mm-hmm. Are you ever going to not fall for that? And then he ends up tricking Loki eventually.
Exactly. The Shadow Council,
which makes their non-shaded appearance in
Winter Soldier. Yeah. So yeah, the Shield board members. I like to call them Shadow Council. I'm pretty sure that's like a real comic book thing that's not from Marvel.
Billy says that Loki pulls the whole Charlie Brown kicking the football routine. Yep.
Yeah. And then, of course, Avengers Tower with Stark. The A is the only thing left. The A is the only thing left.
Yep. Our Stan Lee cameo.
So he was supposed to have 2 cameos in this movie. One of them was supposed to be a scene in the diner, and like he calls like Cap, not a bad name, but makes fun of him for not flirting with a girl or something. And then this one, like Heroes
in New York.
That's what?
So dumb.
So dumb. So he's just like random interview man.
Yeah. Man on the street.
And then I love all the different people that are like dressed up as the Marvel characters and getting tattoos and spray paint. But then there's also the people that are against them to show that not everybody's on the side of the Avengers.
They just stopped aliens from coming out of the sky. But
there would be people that would be
I know.
And then this one has mid and post credits. So this is our first look at Thanos, where he's talking to the other, and we see that he's kind of the mastermind behind everything. And then, of course, when I first saw this, I was like, who's that guy?
And I was just like, oh my God.
I'm like, I don't know who that is. It's Grimace?
Yeah.
What's Grimace doing in the MCU? Is he going to steal fries? I don't know. What does Grimace do in the McDonald's expanded universe?
He's just Ronald's friend.
What about the Fry Kids? What happened to them? We need answers.
No, we don't.
That's our new show. What happened to all McDonald's characters? No, you don't like that idea?
No.
Who wants to see the McDonald's show?
No.
All right, and then the after credits.
Billy says the original California Raisin. Yeah, this one was a fun after credits because it's just them doing the shawarma.
Like, you feel like Tony made them go and he paid for them to go.
Oh, totally.
Because Thor doesn't have any money.
Banner probably doesn't either.
Yeah. Like, Thor literally doesn't have any money.
I could see Tony just being like, look, I'll pay your rent for like a month. Here's my card. Contact Happy. Let him know what's going on. Just can we have some shawarma, please? Please.
And then I think Cap has his hand like that because he's hiding the fact that like he was doing another movie and had facial hair because they filmed this way later from what I remember.
Yep.
But yeah, just they went to go get shawarma. But then if you look at the menu, there's no. It's like all Asian food. It's not shawarma. It's like Thai food.
Let's be honest. Does Thor need money? Honestly, no.
But like, if he's gonna do stuff in Midgard, he's gonna need some money.
He's always with someone most of the time.
Yeah, but I want to see like a movie where Thor, like not like those little shorts where he lived with someone and ruined their life, but like him trying to get a job. It's
hard to say if this was the Snowpiercer time when he was filming Snowpiercer, because I know in Snowpiercer he's got a full beard, and I feel like we'd see it because I know Janine and Billy are talking about he had a beard at that point, but I don't know. It's possible they could have put some like fake skin on his side, like to cover the beard, because that's easier to do than covering around the mouth.
Or just trying to use Photoshop and After Effects to
that's also possible.
Anyway, we'll talk about that. All right, so Age of Ultron, released on May 1st, 2015, also directed by Joss Whedon, the 5th movie in the second phase. Budget of $250 million, which is about standard for the bigger collaborations. And then this one did slightly lower at the box office than Avengers by about $100 million at $1.4 billion worldwide. So another one of their billion-dollar efforts, and we'll look at their other billion-dollar efforts later. And our cat Tiblet has tried to join us and then ran away. All right, so first gripes. I personally felt like the Hydra stuff was just like there and then forgot all about.
And I know it was supposed to kind of be a holdover, like maybe people are tired of listening to Hydra this, Hydra that, because this was like right after there was Ant-Man. No, Ant-Man was
Ant-Man's after.
But was Winter Soldier the last one leading up to this, or did we have something else? Was it Guardians?
We'd have to check the
people in the chat. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think Guardians may have been what separated Winter Soldier from this.
Yeah, I'd have to check the phase sheet, but I'd have to skip ahead, so I'm not going to do that. But that just kind of bothered me.
Yeah, I feel
there and gone and forgotten.
Yeah, because Hydra was kind of on the run as it was at this point. They just it does feel like they should have done more with it, though.
And then this moment where Maria Hill is explaining the different powers of the Maximovs, where he has the speed powers, and then she has the telekinesis. And she kind of does this overly complicated scientific explanation for each of them. And Captain America doesn't get it. And then it's like, he's fast and she's weird.
Which it's funny because the one for Quicksilver makes sense that she'd need to oversimplify it. Because it just sounded like he's got like a really good metabolism. He's like super healthy.
Yeah, super healthy.
But like with her
telekinesis
and telepathy were in what she said at first.
It made more sense to just say she's weird. It's like an oversimplification of
he's fast and he moves fast and she moves stuff with her mind.
Yeah, like they could have easily said that. I don't know. That just kind of bothered me, that especially because it's saying that the female character is weird. It seems like it's discrediting her powers.
Hey, Sam.
Instead of just saying, again, she can manipulate your mind versus he can run real fast.
Sam popped in to say hi. He's only got 1 minute on his break, but we appreciate you popping in.
Nice,
He's got no data to watch at the moment, but still, thank you for joining us. Even if it's just to say hi, we miss you, Sam.
All right, and then the other thing for Quicksilver, like I like the actor that plays Quicksilver. I just don't like the portrayal of his powers. I felt that the X-Men movies did a really good job showcasing Quicksilver's powers. And of course, those moments in both of the X-Men movies that feature Quicksilver are probably like the most memorable moments with the different songs and such. Really good use of music. And like I like that. Again, I like this actor. I felt like they didn't really showcase his powers as well as they could have. Obviously, they probably couldn't just like copy what they did in the other movie because plagiarism. I understand that.
Well, and it just would have looked bad for them
because then
like,
it's
the
like
fans' point of view.
because then there'd be a million think pieces. They copied X-Men. Da da da. It's not the MCU's fault that they can't say mutants and all sorts of stuff.
Yep. I am in the camp also that like I actually like this Quicksilver better. But his portrayal is the way his powers work are weird. But still, that's me.
And then the relationship between Banner and Romanoff.
And this
so weird.
This is the weird kind of like 900-pound giant green rage monster in the room. It's not that I dislike the idea of this, because when we were watching in the theater, I'm like, oh, okay. And then the way it's handled is just odd. Like I don't feel like their characters have chemistry, if that makes sense. That's me. Like they had chemistry in the at the party.
Yeah, I feel like
when it was just harmless flirting.
Yeah, I feel like they have a decent amount of chemistry, but just like the weirdness of, you know, obviously he's dealing with a lot, and then when she tries to equate herself as being a monster too, and talking about like what happened to her in the red room, it was like, okay, are you trying to say because you're sterile that you're a monster?
Like, I know the implication is because she's a killer, she is a monster.
Yeah,
but the way it's worded,
the phrasing
so
was
bad.
really awkward, and I know she's like, look, we don't have to worry about kids because I can't have any.
Welcome,
which was
TJ.
Ironic because Scarlett Johansson was pregnant during this movie. So,
side notes, welcome, TJ. Thank you for joining us. Cal, thank you for being here for a while. Have a nice evening. Have fun at or have a good day at work tomorrow. And Jonathan Peck brings up that Aaron, Elizabeth Olsen, all of them are kind of together, and they know each other really well and stuff. Because Aaron Taylor Johnson and the guy who plays him in this, I can't remember his name, the actor's name.
I think that is the one.
Okay, I'm thinking of the other guy, the other Quicksilver. They were in Kick-Ass together, and all that jazz. Tom is very happy that you were already all over the monster commentary.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something that we've both been kind of like,
forever. That's been a problem for us.
But yeah.
But we still have a lot of likes for this movie.
A lot.
So this is the iconic shot. I love how they, you know, just at the very beginning of the movie, we are in an action-packed scene. I love when the movies start kind of in the middle of things. So I thought that was a really good choice.
Yep.
There's a lot of great moments within this action scene where Captain America throws his motorcycle. Like, that's just so ridiculous, but I loved it.
How are you going to get there, buddy? What you going to do? You going to run the rest of the way?
He probably could.
You're Captain America. You can do that.
He could do it. But yeah, just let him throw a motorcycle at you. And then when Thor and Cap team up to do like the sonic blast situation with his hammer.
Yep, that shockwave that just decimates a troop.
So I really love them working together because, of course, in the previous movie, you know, it was all leading up to them working well as a team, and we see that they do work well as a team now.
Yep.
And then this screen is black on purpose.
Yeah, so Ashley's the one who brought this up to me, and it's true. I when she explained it, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, this makes sense. This is when
Ultron is starting to wake up. So this is before he sees what the world and the internet is. So we hear just as a black screen and the voiceover. It's like,
hey, what's going on?
What's going on? And Jarvis is talking to him, and then it brightens up. So I thought that was a really interesting stylistic choice to just leave the screen blank. I'm unsure if they had to warn audiences that there would be a blank screen. Not to confuse anyone that a reel was messed up or something.
Delisha loved the opening montage. Billy brings up that we forgot language.
We did forget language. I forgot to. I didn't think to like screen cap something for that. But that is definitely a great moment that they will not let go of, because the first word said in the movie is a bad word.
Yeah, Janine brings it up. They let the S-bomb slip in there. And I made note. I think I even tweeted about it. That is literally the first word any Avenger says in the entirety of the movie.
All right, and then poor Rhodey, like, he keeps trying to tell these stories, and the Avengers are like, oh, that's cute. It's like, this story kills with another audience. It's like, oh, really? Because it's talking about something awesome that he's capable of doing as War Machine, but of course they are like way more overpowered than he is. So it's like, that's a cute story, bro. No,
it's a good story. Billy brings up, who would have known the dorky dude from Stargate would become a villain? Robert Downey Jr. would, because Less Than Zero is way proof that that James Spader's a monster or can play a monster.
If y'all have not seen Less Than Zero, it's a 1980s. Kind of coming of age teen movie, but like set in like the college years. Super dark, super awesome. And you'll never see Robert Downey Jr. and James Spader in the same light again. Just, saying.
Yeah.
Plus Andrew McCarthy's in it. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
The party scene, I could have just done the whole section on this alone.
That's what I was saying too when we were coming out. I'm like, I would have watched a 2-hour movie of the party.
Yeah, so this is when they're all talking about Jane and Pepper. Of course, they're not in the movie, but we're trying to basically one-up each other on whose girlfriend is the best.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Thor ends it with Jane's the best.
And walks off.
Yes. Because, she's going for some kind of
Nobel
Prize or whatever. And it's real precious. And then Maria and Rhodey are like, no, we're just going to go.
Jane is better.
And
I also agree, though, Jane is better.
I like Jane better. And then Thor's like, this is weak, so let me give you some Asgardian.
That's been aged for 1,000 years in a hull, in a barrel made from the hull of this warship and all sorts of other stuff like that. And then that's when we have a reference that we'll get to a little later.
Yes, and then, Cap. I'm pretty sure Cap's probably the only person here who, besides Thor, who can take this, because in First Avenger, he can't get drunk. Yep. So, this is probably the only liquor that could be strong enough to disarm the captain, at least for a little bit. And then, of course, this... the
hammer scene.
The hammer scene where, Hawkeye's the first one to be like, it's just a trick. I bet I could pick it up. And he has drumsticks for some reason. Why? When did Hawkeye become a drummer?
Yeah.
And then, so he tries to lift it and can't, and then both...
This picture you got.
It was the best screenshot I could get. Forgive me. Oh, Rhodey's face. But Tony basically goads Rhodey into helping him, both with their the gauntlets.
Are you a team player? Are you on my team? I'm on your team. Are you trying?
Yeah, Rhodey's face.
Tom says the hammer scene was so good. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
I loved every moment of the scene. I'm not sure how I feel about one part of it where they're like, Natasha, you want to try? She's like, oh no, that's nothing I need proof.
Yeah, that's a question I don't need answered.
Yeah.
And then Thor, when Cap moves
when it nudges
ever so slightly, he's like, what?
Yeah.
And then of course he can't do it.
This hammer scene,
they're not worthy.
The hammer scene is fantastic too, because it plays part later in the movie as what's so important about what's going on with it and everything else. So
the fact that it's worthy, and then Tony makes a joke about whoever shall have the thumbprint of Thor shall wield the hammer.
So if I lift this, I get to rule Asgard and everything. Yes, naturally, awesome. So I'm gonna reenact Prima Noctra,
which is so gross.
But that's Tony. He's got to make it weird.
He's got to make it weird. He probably doesn't think anybody else understands what that means. Maybe,
or he doesn't care. Or he's probably drunk at this point.
It's Tony, so. And then I love this moment where I think the shot composition here is so beautiful from the point of view from behind our heroes. And then we see Ultron. It's kind of like they're watching him on a stage.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
you caught him monologuing.
Yeah, the whole moment of him talking about the no strings and such, which is not as well crafted in the movie as it is in the trailer with the trailer editing. But still, he does mention those things here, and how they are they're all killers.
Yep.
And how can you save the world because of what you've done? I'm going to be the one to save the world. And so it's kind of set up like a bit of a stage play almost, with him on stage and they are the audience. I thought that was really cool.
Billy said Ultron should have done the robot. He kind of was. One arm was hanging weirdly.
Yeah.
He was doing weird head gestures, but it's his first body.
And then I like Ultron that he does have a lot of, as much as he hates Tony, because he is Tony, he does a lot of little, non sequiturs that Tony does, but it feels so weird coming from James Spader's voice.
Yeah.
And
his delivery is fantastic.
And then people are taken aback anytime he says something weird like that when he has his Tony moments. And then this moment where Banner, they're looking up something, and Wakanda. He can't say Wakanda. What's in Wakanda?
7 PhDs, my butt.
Not in linguistics, apparently.
Or geography.
African studies. Nope.
Oh, Banner.
Oh, and then they're like, what's in Wakanda? I thought you got all the vibranium, or your dad got all the vibranium out of there.
As a side note, Kim says she loves the elevator moment when they talk about it in the end. She's like, what if you left it on an elevator? Elevator'd still go up. Elevator's not worthy.
And then, of course, Joe's favorite character.
Oh, man. We get Ulysses Claw in this, and he's so great. He's not as bombastic as he was in Black Panther.
But he's still little. He's offering the children candy.
You want some candy?
Want some candy? The little Maximoff children.
And he's just like, look, Strucker told me all about you. And if you try to like make me believe in cuttlefish, I know you're not here. You're not serious. I only talk to the man in charge, et cetera, et cetera. He's fantastic.
And then Ultron's like, there is no man in charge.
Andy Serkis getting to be Andy Serkis playing this character, not like a CGI Andy Serkis, is just, it's so fun. And he has fun with it. And that's what I love about it. I was excited when they're like, yeah, we're going after Ulysses Claw. I'm like, oh. And then see Andy Serkis, and she's like, oh my God.
And then I like how they explain the markings on the back of his head. They're not tattoos, but
they're
a brand that says something, again, in Wakanda.
Like thief.
Yes, but not in a nice way.
They're like flashes, like boom.
And then Ultron went like he rips off,
actually like removes his arm.
Because
like,
oh my
God,
he compared him to Tony, and then it's like, I am not Tony Stark. Oh no, your arm. Oops. I'll grow back, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
I just hate it when people compare me to. Oh, you're breaking my heart.
Yeah, James Spader's so great. I love James Spader. He's a really good actor.
His line delivery works really well. His voice is so like sinister sounding. They
need to get more Brat Pack people in the MCU. I'm just saying.
Totally.
And then I love this moment where Thor's like, "Oh, she didn't get me, for I am mighty," and then instant cut to
he
him
like takes a sidestep, and then he's hallucinating now
into Fantasyland. And I thought all of the little hallucinations were pretty apt for what each character would care about. I just didn't grab screens of all of them because it's already running long anyway.
Yeah.
And then this moment was great. I've already been mind controlled once. I'm not doing that again.
Yep. That is one thing I really enjoy that they did a really good job with, I feel, in this one, is that Hawkeye gets to shine.
Yes.
Like, whether you like him or not, he gets to shine.
Yeah, because he only had like a brief cameo in Thor, and then he's an enemy most of the Avengers. So he doesn't really get a whole lot of agency in those movies. And then here we really get to care about him, and he gets to come into his own. And I think this is definitely the movie that set him up to be like the beloved character that he is. And people are like, where's Hawkeye?
The pool scene?
Of course, Hulkbuster armor, really awesome.
Yeah, it was such a cool
I remember
scene.
we analyzed this trailer in class the year that it came out, and one of the girls got mad at me for telling her that this was Hulkbuster armor. It's like, you didn't know already? I'm sorry.
As a side note, now that we're here, you mentioned the trailer, and Kimber said the trailer is definitely better than the movie.
Oh yes.
Yes, still. We will talk about it more a little later, but the trailer is leaps and bounds better than the movie. I also love that this suit is codenamed Veronica, as in Betty and Veronica from Archie fame.
Yes.
And nice. Betty is Bruce's ex-girlfriend. And
nice.
And yes, the Hulkbuster just looks fantastic. It looks weird in the clips from Infinity War. And I know it's supposed to be like an updated, different version. I don't know, man.
We'll see.
We'll see.
All right, and then I love this moment where it's like, what? Hawkeye has a family, but earlier he said he didn't have a girlfriend.
And this is what Tom's waiting for, is the farmhouse stuff.
This was the biggest surprise to me of the movie until a later surprise. But yeah, he has a wife, and he has adoring children. He has another one on the way. Apparently, Natasha knew about all of this.
Fury does too.
Yes, because it's a safe house. He'd like to keep it that way. And then Tony's trying to rationalize it in his mind. Oh, she's an agent. Those are just little agents.
They're just much smaller agents.
And no, this is just Hawkeye is #1 dad. And then
Thor accidentally breaks a toy, and then he's just like...
Yeah, he steps on some Legos, knocks it under the chair. Little girl's looking up to him, and then he just nopes out of there like, nope.
He's just like, can't handle kids. Maybe we should rename Atticus Thor. Because he hates small children as well.
And of course, it all has to really do with his vision. But I just like to pretend that he's like, nope, cannot deal with tiny Midgard children. I'm gone. Nope.
Delisha brings up, he didn't lie. Wasn't his girlfriend.
It wasn't his girlfriend, no, but she's like, oh, I can't help you with that. So this screenshot, when he's picking out his new AI after Jarvis is taken out of commission, I love not because of the foreground one, Friday, but in the background, he has one named Jocasta.
Yup.
Like from the Greek story of Oedipus.
Okay, the pool scene. That's what Billy's talking about when he goes to the pool of visions. Okay.
So yeah, Jocasta from Oedipus. That's an interesting choice of name for your AI assistant.
Yep.
I'm wondering what that says about Tony.
Really? Everything. There's a moment later where Rhodey's like, "Don't make it. You had to make it weird, didn't you?" And Tony just makes everything weird because that's his sense of humor.
Then it's hard to see what the other one says, but it looks like it says
like Kadashi or Tadashi.
Something 41 maybe? I don't know, but Jocasta stood out to me. Like, okay, we used to have a joke when we would read Oedipus.
Oh, Jesus, Oedipus.
Yeah, we used to say Jocasta, Joe Mama, because, we used to read that.
The mama.
Yes, anyway, we can talk. If you want to hear more about Oedipus, tell us in the comments.
Kimber with the random fact that Linda Cardellini dated Jason Segel for 5 years.
Nice. And then I love this moment. I never noticed this before, but when Tony's like at the CERN or something and like hacking into a system, this random girl is like, take a picture.
Selfie.
Yeah, let me get Tony in the background.
So Tom brings this up that I didn't even know this. Nice poll, Ashley. Jocasta is a female Ultron, the great in the comics as well.
Oh, nice.
So that's not only a literary poll, but an actual comic poll. That's Talk about your deep cuts.
I figured it probably had something that was deeper than obviously the Greek myth.
Yeah.
Tragedy, whatever. And then this moment.
Yeah.
In the theater, everybody was like cheering and screaming or whatever because
when he just picks up the hammer and hands it to him.
Yeah, because there's this huge moment of, can we trust him? We don't know your vision.
Look, we just got to go do this.
Guys,
and he hands him the hammer.
Guys, let's go. It's like,
and everyone, and Thor's just like, okay,
we're good.
And everyone else's face is like, what just happened?
Yeah, what just happened? So that was great. And then that also gives credence. It's not just because no matter what in a movie, everything has to move the plot along. It's not just for, giggles and such. Like, oh, look at this hilarious moment. Everything has to call back to something, or everything has to move the plot forward. So this is a callback to that moment. And so again, they're not just in there like, that's a cool moment. That all has to do with leading the story forward. And that's what makes it a beautiful thing, I think. So
Billy brings up going from Jarvis, which is British male voice, to Friday, an Irish female voice. Yeah, Tony must love Europe. And then Vision stole the show. Very true. Vision totally stole the show.
I love Vision.
But I love Kimber saying, I'm going to need a tetanus shot. That was a deep cut. Nice. But yeah. Billy brings up that when he's like, everyone's jaws dropped. And that was kind of that simultaneous like gasp a moment and then laughter and cheering and everything afterwards. Like, woo! All right, this is like one of both of our favorite scenes.
This is my favorite moment. Like in the theater, I was like, I need this to be on video now so I can show this to my class because we use this as one of our mini speeches when we learn ethos, pathos, and logos. And him trying to appeal to Scarlet Witch with logic. Like this situation makes no sense.
We're on a flying island fighting an army of robots, and I'm using a bow and arrow.
None of this makes sense. And then kind of the appealing to her emotions, like if you're gonna be out there, and if you're gonna stay here, like I'll send your brother for you, and you just wait. But if you're gonna go out there, then you are an Avenger. So. It's just it's a beautiful moment that we like to talk about among our other little Marvel speeches. Just so you know, the Marvel speeches, all of them are awesome. And then this moment is probably my favorite moment of Scarlet Witch's character after she's lost her brother, and Ultron tries to make an appeal to her, but she rips out his heart.
Oh yeah, if you stay here, you'll die.
Yes.
And she
I'm already dead.
Do you want to know what that feels like? And then rips out his heart.
So it's very powerful.
Janine brings up that she loves that the voice that Jarvis, Paul Bettany, is married to the voice of Spider-Man's AI, which is
nice.
Jennifer Connelly, right?
I think so.
Yeah. And she would, who also played Betty in Ang Lee's Hulk.
Yeah, so bringing her back into the MCU the way they can.
Yep.
Nice.
And for me, as a real quick aside, like Jarvis being Vision is like the most gratifying because from the very first Iron Man movies, Jarvis was like one of my favorite characters, even though he was an AI. And going into the first Avengers and everything else, it just, I loved the character and getting to see him grow and his complexity and what he can figure out and what he anticipates. So him becoming Vision, even though he's not Vision, it's the same voice and some of his imprint and things like that. Mm-hmm. It's not the same character, but it's enough that I'm like, okay, it's like having our new Groot. Mm-hmm. Even though we don't have old Groot, it's new Groot.
New Groot.
He's new Jarvis.
That made me think of something from, I think it was the Avengers, where it's like Jarvis is my co-pilot.
Yep.
Jarvis take the wheel.
You can get that as bumper sticker.
Yes. And then this moment's great, between the final moment between Vision and Ultron, and talking about naivete. It's like, well, I was born yesterday. Yeah. So just I just love that moment. I love how Vision based his look.
You're insufferingly naive or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I love how Vision based his look off of Thor.
Yep.
Because
at first he didn't have the cape, and then he looked over at Thor. He's like, just make a cape for myself.
I'm gonna make a cape. I need a cape for myself.
Yeah, his "I was born yesterday" line. That's pretty great. I feel like he picked up that kind of commentary from his less than 24 hours with his new friends. His new family.
His new friends. All right, before we get into further connections, you want to check in with the chat?
Yeah, we can do that. There's a lot of chat going on. I've been talking about it as we've been going for the most part. But it's lots of talk. The Spider-Man's AI, lots of links, and that's a fun thing. That's an MCU connection we just didn't necessarily realize.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's also hard to talk about this movie without talking about the other like 2,500-pound robot in the room. With the fact that this is like our first major dramatic change from like something in the Marvel universe in the comics to the movie, and it's the origin of Ultron. Mm-hmm. In the comics, it's like a Hank Pym thing and all sorts of other weird stuff. It changes from time to time depending on which Marvel universe and how many reboots we're deep in.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's a Stark thing. It's Stark's creation, and it makes sense considering the scope of his universe.
Yeah, he wants to put like a shield around the world, so that the only thing that the world has to fight are the people in the world. It's
got to deal with its own problems. It doesn't have to worry about what's up there. Because that's kind of the way Tony says, we can bust arms dealers all day, mm-hmm. but what's up there is the real threat.
Yeah, and he's still emotionally triggered from his stint with the other and such.
Yep.
The Chitauri.
That's one of the big changes, and it's one of those situations where it's kind of like, but like we haven't had Hank Pym yet, and then we get Ant-Man mm-hmm. the very next movie.
Well, I mean, they have to change things to fit the worlds that they're creating, and I like how Tony makes the same, I guess, mistake twice is maybe the wrong phrase for it, but like he convinces Banner twice that they have to go through with this. The first time that they create the Ultron, mm-hmm. and the second time is when Vision is created, and like it's like mathematics. The fact that Banner keeps listening to him, it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah,
because I don't know. Clearly, Tony is not thinking
rationally.
Mm-hmm. And it also kind of shows how Tony doesn't really consider the others' opinions, because he even makes we don't need to have like a board meeting about like what we should do, and kind of makes me think of like some of the stuff that happens in Civil War where like, oh yeah, I'm totally fine with these accords.
Yeah. There's some commentary about how the pace really kills them. It took way too much time. Is how much stuff they crammed in. And it's true. It feels like there's a lot to unpack here.
And then when I was grabbing all the screens for this, of course, like the trivia pops up when you do that. And Joss Whedon did have a huge problem trying to get all of the stories together, because he made like a comparison to X-Men, because the X-Men all kind of have the same, not necessarily like the same origin, but they all have they have a common problem where they're discriminated against because of who they are. it's easier to unite them, even though there's so many different characters with different powers. But these characters all come from lots of different backgrounds, and so he really struggled to, get them together. And he originally wanted to expand the vision pool scene with Thor, but they said no. If you do that, then you're going to have to cut all this stuff with Hawkeye, and he chose to keep the stuff with Hawkeye, which I think is a smart choice, as that really gave.
We didn't have a lot of Hawkeye before this movie.
Exactly. That gave his character more to do.
He was in 2 movies, but that's all we really had, was just some random moments of Hawkeye in 2 movies. But in this one, we get to see the starting of Grumpy Dad Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. And Grumpy Dad Hawkeye has quickly become one of my favorite MCU characters.
Definitely.
He was one of the highlights of Civil War for me, with as little as he was in it.
And then bringing it back to the trailer, I think it's actually the teaser trailer, with the I Have No Strings motif that runs throughout it with the song. It kind of started that trend of like, let's turn the song into a different key and make it very melodic, and then every trailer is now that thing.
It did that for there was a
that trend is starting to die out finally, but I think that was the catalyst. That trailer was so well crafted, and just the way, especially like with Ultron's speech, it was so beautiful. And then the movie is like, it's okay.
And again, this is how we felt at first.
Yes.
But are we ready to go back to our MCU connections?
Or if you want to finish talking about overall feelings first, what do you want to do?
Yeah, we can do that. It was interesting watching both of these movies back to back like we have. We found we didn't really enjoy the first Avengers as much.
Yeah, and we mentioned
still liked it. We mentioned it before. We found we liked this one a lot more.
Yeah, I found a lot more to like about Ultron, because this is one I had been avoiding rewatching for years.
Yeah.
Now it's like, and then we're like, let's watch, like every time you're like, let's watch Avengers. It's like, but then we're gonna have to watch Ultron. It's like, And we'll keep putting it off. And so this was definitely the movie I was looking least forward to.
Same. Like, and it's kind of this wasn't good, but it wasn't bad, but it was definitely a misstep, is how we felt initially. Mm-hmm. But then after rewatching it, it's kind of like we actually felt it aged better.
Yeah, I like the places that the characters go in Ultron, where like, yeah, they do get kind of split up, and yeah, the pacing of the movie is not great. It starts off very action-packed, but there is a lot of I think there's more slow moments in Ultron than there may be in the Avengers, but I like what they do to set up for the future.
The thing is, they were already spinning 5 plates in the first Avengers, and they had like 4 more plates to the stack, and it's a lot of plates to spin. But I feel like I think the thing is, and I will talk about this more at the end, but I made a huge tweet about how much the Marvel movies have come in their amount of time. And with this movie, when was the first Avengers? Like 2012, 2013?
Yeah, 2012. 2012.
There's a 3-year difference between the first Avengers movie and this Avengers movie, and it's not that necessarily they've become better at this stuff, but the actors are they're 3 years more comfortable in these roles, and they've been able to work together for 3 more years and figure out each other's back and forth and how to play off of each other. And I think that shows. I think that's what makes it a lot better to me. Is and I'll say up and down online that the best parts of these movies are when they can just talk to each other and back and forth to each other in character. It's why I've said that, and I said this from the first time we saw it. I watched 2 hours of the victory party, the Rebels.
Rebels.
But because it's just them being their characters and chewing the fat and talking, and I think that's what makes this movie better. Is they're better at doing that now. Not that they were bad before, but it's the mounting. Things are getting better and better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
all right, why don't we go ahead and look at connections? All right, so these are the kind of things that are kind of, again, references to the past, but also going forward. Of course, Nick Fury, because he had died, quote unquote, but he was like more in hiding in Winter Soldier. So he's coming back out of hiding to kind of whip them into what they need to do.
Yep.
And of course, Selvig is in this. He's the one that helps Thor. Thor seeks him out. And he's so excited to see Thor. He loves Thor.
He does. Because Selvig's like, I'm bored all the time.
This is set up for Ragnarok, where Hulk goes out on the Quinjet by himself. He hangs up on Black Widow, and she's devastated.
Yep.
When she tells him that he needs to come back home and he's doing it to protect them.
There is a comment later on in the movie where, or shortly after this, where I think Fury's telling Widow's like, we saw this crash on our radar, but we don't know if it's a Quinjet or not. It's hard to track it with the stealth technology, but we'll hear from him again eventually. Eventually.
And then the setup for the new Avengers training. So we see that these guys are going to officially be on the team with the Vision, Scarlet Witch, Falcon, and War Machine.
Yep.
And then, of course, Sokovia.
Yeah.
Setting up for Civil War, all of the
Sokovia Accords.
The Sokovia Accords, because, and I think a big difference that you see from First Avengers to Ultron is the fact that, like, in New York, they didn't have time to evacuate anyone. Where in this one, you see them actively trying to evacuate the city, and with Quicksilver, like, trying to, like, tell them, no, you need to leave. No, for real, and, like, has, like, a semi-automatic weapon, like, firing up in the place, up in the air, not to hurt anybody, but just because they're like, oh, we're not going to leave, and it's like, no, for real.
There's also a moment, too, it's interesting we talk about Civil War and Sokovia Accords. One could argue that, like, there's a lot more love for the Avengers after the first Avengers movie because they're literally repelling an alien invasion.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much of the information behind the Ultron incident got out because it's Tony's fault.
Yeah, it's Tony's fault.
And which is probably why I feel so guilty about it, but
definitely.
Because it's Tony.
And then our Stan Lee cameo.
Excelsior.
He was a little too...
he downed some of that 1,000-year-old stuff aged in a cask.
Yeah, too much of Thor's liquor.
His, whatever that was.
Whatever that was, we could not handle it. And then Ultron only has a mid-credit scene. It does not have a post-credits.
Yep.
So we see that this is like the one where people are like, finally, Thanos is getting up off his butt.
And now it's been, 3 years?
So he gets the gauntlet and then puts the gauntlet on. It's like, yay, Thanos.
Doing this myself.
He's not just sitting in a chair. Yay.
Yep.
All right. So, again, comparing them box office to box office, like we said, is $100,000 difference, basically. That's a rough estimate. I did actually do the math earlier, but I don't know where that paper is. And then we can see critic-wise, Ultron did not fare as well. These are all still positive on Rotten Tomatoes, the aggregate. And we see the audience score dipped a little, but the audience score was definitely more positive compared to the critics. I think that makes a lot of sense.
It does.
And then, of course, our phase sheet is almost complete. The only thing that we have left is Ant-Man, but we're saving Ant-Man for when Ant-Man and the Wasp comes out.
Yep.
And then we see that Avengers spent 3 weeks at number 1 at the box office. And then Age of Ultron only spent 2 weeks at the same position. And then kind of looking at our overall little chart. Avengers got an A+ cinema score and that's a totally audience-based. You actually had to go see the movie to rank it. They catch you outside of the theater. You rank it from A+ to F. So Avengers was A+ based off the audience, and then Ultron earned an A. And then I just kind of like to put those things up in the chart because then you can kind of see in each phase, which I kind of have blocked out, how it started off at, one budget and then climbed all the way to $220 million. And then you see the box office numbers shifting as well, depending on whose franchise it was and how much was known about the character. Like we see that the Incredible Hulk didn't do quite as well versus some of the other ones, like Iron Man really knocked it out of the park, despite that not being well known at the time. Or not as well known to outsiders. Comic book fans knew who Iron Man was.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, Iron Man 2 did even better. And then Thor actually did pretty well for...
It's the best non-Iron Man MCU of the first phase as far as how much money it made.
Yeah, and then we talked about before about Hulk not being a bad taste because of the previous Hulk movie. And then nobody saw First Avenger.
People just didn't care.
People just did not care about the captain. And then we see in phase 2 where Iron Man, because it's the established property, it gets the highest budget. And then all of the sequels and then the introduction of the Guardians They get that standard $170 million budget, and then Ultron gets a little bit more because it's a huge team-up movie.
Yep.
And we see that Iron Man and Ultron are the billion-dollar box offices for that phase. Of course, Ant-Man's missing from those numbers, but then all the other ones are doing really well. They're all over $500 million. So again, they're not hurting, because everybody always talked about superhero fatigue. It's happening. I'm not really seeing it.
Yep.
And then when we go into phase 3, which is complete because Infinity War is separate, again, our big team-up movie gets a $250 million budget. Some of our smaller known ones, like Doctor Strange, they kind of cap that a little under the phase 2. But Guardians, they gave them more money. Spider-Man, it's kind of it splits the difference. Thor, I think they were kind of worried about. They didn't give them as much as some of the other ones did. And then Black Panther, I think they kind of took, not a gamble, but they wanted to make sure to do it right. So they gave them the $200 million to do what they needed to do.
Night, Delisha, thank you for joining us.
And then we see that in Civil War and Black Panther, which that Black Panther number hasn't been updated. I need to update it. Again, those are the billion-dollar ones. Everything is still making plenty of money. They're all over $500 million worldwide. So I don't think superhero fatigue is happening yet. People are still going to these movies.
Yep.
Even when people say, like, man, the fatigue, but I'm still going to pay to go. Well,
then you're only kind of fatigued.
Yes. And then I just wanted to do something a little fun this time because of the cinema score and because I am a teacher. So I ranked all of the movies based off of GPA. Now, you might get mad when A and A plus are the same scale. Well, that's how colleges do that. So I'm sorry if that makes you mad, but that's realistic. An A plus and an A are the same GPA. So if we look at them as grades, if these were classes they took in college, the lowest one is phase 1 because it has that Thor bringing it down to a B plus. Phase 2 is not quite done, but so far its GPA is the highest because it has all A's and an A minus. And then phase 4 has the perfect GPA, sorry, I didn't mean to say phase 2 is the highest. It's higher than the MCU average. But phase 4 has a perfect GPA because all of them are A or A plus, which brings the average MCU GPA to a good 3.91. That's about what my GPA was in college. So, it's pretty good.
Billy is bringing up that Thor had the closest to his GPA. Thor also is about my GPA, my current GPA in college. I'm going to college.
So, yeah, I just thought that was fun to do. I'm weird. We all know this.
You're a teacher.
Yes. And that's it for all of the stuff I did.
All right. So that is all of us for Avengers so far.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, we still like these movies a lot. We ended up liking the first Avengers movie not as much. I'm reiterating, of course.
Yeah.
Second Avengers movie way more than we initially liked it. So yeah. Any final thoughts before we go to the last part?
I was kind of surprised again that I did not like Avengers as much as I did when I initially saw it, but of course that happens at times.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pleasantly surprised to like Ultron a lot more than I initially did. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. I was very surprised that I liked it more than I initially did. Shocking, actually. But I wanted to take a moment before we get to the closeout and thank everyone for coming and everything. But last night I tweeted a huge 19-piece thread about like what the MCU movies and comic movies in general mean to me and how important they are. And if you haven't seen it, awesome, fine, it's cool. But I did something unique with it, or not even unique. I did something I was very proud of that I felt was clever, where I used GIFs from the Marvel movies for each tweet, and I actually released those GIFs in order of the release of the Marvel movies. which made me very happy that I was able to pull off. So if you do end up seeing it and it starts getting a little long-winded and like rambly and like it looks like I'm grasping for things to say about tweet 11, that's probably why.
But I did read the series of tweets, and I would like to think I'm not biased, but maybe I'm just a little biased. But I thought it was pretty insightful. And you're like, can I mention this on the show? I'm like, sure, I was going to suggest the same thing. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely go check out his thread, because I thought it was pretty insightful and also inclusive of all the comic book movies, not just Marvel.
I do mention some DC stuff because DC is super important in my life as well. I am more of a Marvel guy and always have been, as much as I do like DC stuff. But that's me. I grew up with Iron Man being my favorite because he made his own superpowers.
Just like Batman.
Yep.
And rich.
Yeah.
It helps.
That's his biggest superpower, his money.
All right, well, we've talked for a long time about this.
We are at about an hour
which
and
is
a
sad
half.
Because it was just 2 movies.
But they're big movies. There's a lot to unpack.
Yes, so much. The most epic crossover of crossovers.
So I want to thank everyone for coming out. We don't have as many watching now as we had at one point, but everyone that's been here in the chat, all the streamers, if you see their names in this chat, because I know they do the live stream chat thing now, if you watch this video later, please check out all of their channels. Ache Panel, Kingslayer Network, I know Night Shame is on there, and Typical, they all have their own channels. Other people as well. Follow us all on Twitter. I am at the Spice Must Joe.
I'm at _Mrs. Davis.
And we have a combined channel of Geek to My Nerd with underscores between everything. And other people can put their Twitters in the chat, or maybe we'll do a video of like shout out video, or if you follow one of us, you can probably see the other people on there as well. Please, we're not doing this for anything other than we just love to, and it's fun.
We just like talking.
It's stressful, but it's the best kind of stressful.
We like talking with people. It's fun.
And thank you, Billy and Delisha and Janine, especially. Thank you, Janine, because you make all of our stickers for us. Delisha's always a ray of sunshine. Billy's always got the best puns. Just the best. And I grew up with Pierce Anthony novels. Billy, if you've never read those novels, I think you'll feel right at home.
Actually, I think Billy's puns would probably be better.
They are, but it's still,
It's puntastic.
Billy wants to get to 1,000 followers. Let's make it happen. But other people as well in the chat. Kim Hanley showed up. Thank you very much for that. Amy Awesome was here. I think I may have mentioned her already, but still in general. Jonathan Peck and Sam. Everyone, thank you for showing up. We really appreciate it. We will have one more video for now coming up, but it's not going to be next Monday. As everyone who undoubtedly came to see this video knows, and like 90% of the world that has access to the internet and everything knows, that this Thursday / Friday, I guess technically Friday is the release day, is the official release of Avengers Infinity War. We will be doing a video for that, but we will not be doing it the following Monday. So if you keep an eye on either my Twitter, Ashley's Twitter, or Geek to My Nerd, or maybe a couple of other Twitter accounts, you'll see more information about that as it develops. But I'm just going to say it's a very ambitious crossover in the making.
Probably the most ambitious crossover
since the last ambitious crossover we tried.
Yes.
It's a risk. That's all I'm going to say. And see if it works. Anywho, thank you so much for joining us. Please follow all these fantastic people in the chat. They're all good-hearted people. They support us. We're all family. Tom brought up earlier, the X-Men all live together. They're basically a family. We don't all live together, but we're kind of like a family. We support each other. We're there for each other. And yeah, that's all I got, because I'm terrible at ending.
We're the worst at ending things. So you're just going to randomly end it in the middle of my sentence?
No, I'm not going to randomly. That would be rude. What is this? The Sopranos?